Hello, I'm Michael Gigani, and this is Straight Talk. With me today is Kenneth Leung. Kenneth Leung, you are a legislative councillor representing the accountancy sector, a functional constituency. Now, there's so many things that's happened. It seems like every week, so many things happen. Police changed the narrative on what happened at the Yuen Long attack. That came as a surprise to many people. The mainland have arrested 12 activists who were trying to go to Taiwan, but straight into mainland waters. Then there's a question about whether the opposition Legco members, and you're one of them, should join the extended Legco or not. All these questions are out there. But before I go into that, I'm going to ask you this. The testing, the universal coronavirus testing starts today, Tuesday.
Yeah.
And people are debating whether they want to join, whether it's useful or not. Some experts say it really is not a proper gauge of what's happening out there. Are you going to take the test?
Well, I think honestly it's a personal choice, because the validity of the test result is only about 10 days, whatever. If you want to travel, if you want to document, say that you are okay, then you join. But I don't think I'm traveling and I'm in a good shape. And I don't think I'll get the testing done, because I'll leave the opportunity for other people. That is fair, isn't it?
You don't have to leave the opportunity to them, because the government says they can handle it.
But I really don't need it, because I feel good and I'm in good shape. I keep my social distancing. I always wear my mask, so I really don't need a test.
Don't you think that the more people join, the better picture we have of?
Well, we're not talking about picture. We're talking about helping the people. We're talking about detecting those carriers. So this is if it is a preventive measure, then yes, people can go. But if people feel that they don't need it, then of course they can have their own choice.
Now, why has this issue, everything in Hong Kong has become so politicized? Why has this become politicized?
Well, I think there are two things. One is the deferral of the election, and they're using a lot of these polling station venues for this testing. And secondly, I think people are skeptical about, after they've done the test, those test data, will these personal data be transferred to somewhere else?
But Dave, the government has continuously said that that's not going to happen.
Yeah, we all know that. But there is a mistrust between the people and the government for a long time. But people will not listen to what the government said. That is the fundamental problem.
Why is that?
Society.
Why is that, Kenneth? Why is it? I mean, it's not only about testing, about everything. The people will not listen to the government. Like, for example, August 31st, which was yesterday, that it was the first year anniversary of the what happened at the Prince Edward Station.
Yes.
Some people said that some protesters had died. The government said no. There's so much mistrust, right down to testing for the virus. Why is that?
Well, I think it's a long story, because as you look at the cabinet ministers, if there are people with integrity, if they're transparent enough, then people will listen to them. Of course, I mean, there are some policies which are not very welcoming. But still, if the government listen to the people and tell the people the truth, then there won't be any mistrust.
But the government has said that we're not lying. We are telling you the truth. You just don't want to believe us.
Listen, for example, in the narratives, in one of the press conference conducted by the superintendent about the Yuen Long incident, that guy was not telling us the complete picture. There was a change in the narratives. And then the next day came the police commissioner dismissing some of the, the facts, set by the superintendent.
That's correct, including
so many times.
Including how many minutes it took for the police to arrive.
They are the basic facts. I mean, you shouldn't twist the basic fact. And you should be transparent to your people.
Well, now, it did come as a surprise that the narrative on what happened in Yuen Long last July, for the whole year, the narrative was that some white-shirted people had attacked protesters going back home when they arrived at the Yuen Long MTR station, and they were attacked by these white. The police never disputed that in the beginning.
No.
But then they finally came out. One police superintendent, I think, came out and said, no, both sides were fighting. But Kenneth, to be fair, were some videos that showed the black-clad protesters taunting the white-shirted people and says, you know, don't go away, stay here, and then throwing bottles and then using a fire hose. Those things did happen as well. That probably the narrative was that caused the white-shirted people to attack.
Well, we don't know the sequence of events. I mean, if those black-shirt people are defending, they may be just defending, but we don't have the big picture. We don't have the sequence of events. So I think the whole thing needs to be investigated. I think the setting up of an independent inquiry commission to handle the 721 incident to get a true picture is very important. And no one get a full picture here. Sometimes you got a film clip from one side and the other side say, this is not the fact. We got another film clip, so this is always in this.
Well, the government has ruled out a commission of inquiry. They said that the Police Complaints Council, whatever the name is,
IPCC.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a long name. Has already done an investigation, and that's the end of the matter.
Well, but that's ridiculous because the narratives given by the superintendent was in contradiction with the narratives given by the IPCC on the Yunlong incidents. If you compare them, so which
Sure,
is
the IPCC said some things, and then the police official said something else, and then the next day the police commissioner said something else. So
yeah, I mean that's the whole thing. If you have a commission of inquiry, maybe you're just concentrating on one or two incidents like the 21st July or the 31st August incident. We are not talking about having a commission of inquiry to inquire into the whole social movement. It will be quite daunting, the task. Maybe concentrating on one or two issues.
Do you believe people died at Prince Edward Station?
I have no idea at all. Honestly, I'm not at the venue at that moment. I'm only looking at the film clips, so it's inconclusive.
But if people did die, surely the family members would come out, right?
Well, they may not have any family members, those people.
So you're saying you believe people did die?
No, I didn't say any. Some people did die, but that is inconclusive. Everything's inconclusive.
Now, at the Yunlong incident, two of your colleagues, Ted Hui Chifeng and Lam Chok Ting, were both arrested for rioting. Arrested and charged with rioting, along with a number of other people. Now, Lam Chok Ting said that he had gone after the trouble started because people had asked him to go there to help out or to mediate. So he was filming the whole thing, and then he himself was beaten up and required, I think, 18 stitches.
Yes,
right?
yes.
But now he's been arrested as rioting. I cannot talk about that because he's already been charged.
Yes.
So we cannot talk about that. But that leads to the question, if two legislative councillors from the opposition were arrested, the hardcore opposition, the younger opposition members are saying, surely that is good enough reason for Legislative Council, the opposition, to boycott the extended one-year term of Legco. Now, you were among 4 disqualified for the now delayed elections, right? But you, even though you were delayed for a new election, you were DQ'd, disqualified for a new election, you're allowed to stay for an extended term. What are you going to do? There's a contradiction.
Well, I think, of course, there's a sharp contradiction. To boycott is one strategy, or to stay on to fight is another strategy. I think I'm responsible to my constituents. I mean, it's the people who voted for me to vote me inside into the council. If I'm going to have an extended term, I have to get a mandate from my people. And that's why I think Democratic Party is going to have a poll to see what the people think. And I did my poll as well a couple of weeks ago in my own functional constituency.
But you didn't do a proper poll. You know, the best poll is people come out and cast their vote. You can't just poll 500 people and see what happens.
I have about 9,000 emails sent out to my constituents. And of course, I mean, DP is not going to do a referendum type of voting system, but they're only having a polling to be done by an expert. But the poll, to me, is just a serious reference. I think you have to take into account the situation and your strategy and everything into account and make a political decision. At the end of the day, you cannot rely on just one poll and say, okay, this poll give me 55% mandate to stay on or to leave. And you cannot mitigate your responsibility by saying, oh, because this poll tell me so, then you stay on or you leave.
But how accurate can a poll be? Because this polling should be for people who identify themselves as with the opposition.
Yes.
Now, a general polling, as we all know, the opposition is divided as to whether you should remain in Legco or boycott it. The government wants you to stay.
Well, that is irrelevant, whether they want me to stay. Yeah?
No, the question was the government wants you to stay, and the central government, even though you were disqualified, did not say that you cannot be part of the extended Legco. And the chief executive came out and said she wants all of you to stay. Now, given that, I go back to the polling. So Hong Kong is divided. Some people support the government side, and some people support the opposition side, right? If you do a polling, you might get, like in testing, a false negative or a false positive, right?
Yeah.
Because the polling will also include pro-government people who will want you to stay. But this is the decision for the opposition.
Yeah. To them, I think their polling can divide the respondent into the pro-government type and the non-pro-government type. I mean, the experts say they can identify those two poor people. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's up to the expert to tell them how to do it. But my constituents are the accountants. I conduct a very thorough poll on the accountants generally.
Quick break. See you soon. Don't go away. Thanks for staying with us. This is Straight Talk. With me is Kenneth Leung. Kenneth Leung, you represent the accountancy sector in Legislative Council. Now, before the break, you were asked, you were talking about whether you should or should not join the extended Legco. You say that you have polled your functional constituency. There are over 20,000 people, but you polled around 9,000.
Yes.
And they want you to stay, is that right?
Well, it's quite close, the result. I think 53% want me to stay, 43% want me to go, and the other 6%, they are neutral, or they ask me to make a decision. So then you cannot say
definitively that people want you to stay, right?
No, that's why I have to look at other polls and also ascertain what I can do if I stay or what I can do if I leave. These are the very relevant factors which I need to take into consideration.
How united is the opposition in this? I mean, if for example, you take a poll for your sector and other people take a poll for their districts, and then they will say, well, my people want me to stay, and some say my people don't want me to stay. Then those who say they want to stay will stay, those who don't want to stay will leave. Then the opposition becomes divided. Now, some people say that's exactly the intent of the central government.
No, I think it's a general trend, I think. People in the camp, apart from one or two exceptions, are more inclined to stay and fight on. Although this is an illegitimate regime, there are a lot of limitations.
If it's illegitimate, then how do you justify staying?
There have been a lot of illegitimacy in the past 2 years, 3 years in the
But
council.
You say it's illegitimate. The central government says it's not, because the National People's Congress said, yes, it has the right and the power to extend it for 1 year.
Illegitimate in the sense that it's unprecedented and unrepresentative, the decision. Although when there's no legal challenge, it's not in a legal sense it's illegitimate, but in a sense that it's unrepresented because it's something imposed by the central government. And to us...
But they have that right.
They have the right. Illegitimate in the sense that people in Hong Kong do not have a say in this deferral of election because we want the election to be conducted on the 6th of September.
But that's not going to happen.
That's going to happen. And now there is an extended term. And I think we are not just relying on just a single poll. To me, I'm not relying on the result of a single poll or two polls to tell me whether I'm staying or not. It all depends what I can or I cannot do if I stay for another 12
What can you do and what you cannot do? Now, you know that the opposition doesn't have the numbers in the Legislative Council to block legislation. You don't have the veto power that you had before. So the only thing you can do, like there was a meeting of Legco, I think a week or so ago, and the opposition, all they did was to protest against some government policy or the chief executive. You've been doing that for years. That's old hat. So if you stay in Legco, what possibly can you do? Because the establishment camp they've got the votes to get anything and everything through.
Well, except if they want to push through draconian legislation like changing the basic law, they still can't because we've still got a 1/3 blocking.
Yeah, but
blocking
you know.
vote. And of course, we are there to ask questions and scrutinize. For example, if you look at the budget this year, and my Putin was saying we are experiencing the biggest ever budget deficit, 290 billions. But I've been telling him since February that your budget will be exceeding 300 billion. What are we going to do? Are we going to dish out cash again? Are we going to help?
But what's the point of asking those questions in Legco when whatever you say, the government will ignore and the establishment camp will just overrule it? All you can do is complain or say or oppose, but that's all you can do.
That is not the truth, because talking about livelihood, economy, I think the government will listen to all spectrums of politicians. It's not about the political bargaining power or whatever. This is the hard economy. We are suffering. Everyone is suffering because of the escalating tension between China and the U.S. because of COVID-19, because of the negative impact of the national security law. How are we going to grow? And if we are getting another deficit of 300 billion in 2021, 2022, everything, all the reserve will be gone. And we are here to give our views, to impart our, measures to the government, because we need to work together sometimes. Of course, we're scrutinizing.
You don't
everything.
work together.
Work together for the whole benefit of Hong Kong. That is one thing which we cannot say sometimes.
In fact, that's a good point, because the government did say that, and a lot of pro-establishment people did say that they said that extending Legco for a year and allowing you, who were disqualified for the September 6th election, which has now been postponed, allowing you and 3 other Legco members to remain, even though you were disqualified, that was a gift from the central government.
No, I don't think it's a gift.
To
I
you.
mean, the whole disqualification process is arbitrary, it's subjective. It is not a gift.
But they said it was a gift, and they want you to behave in Legco.
No,
Are you going to behave?
The word is very condescending and disgusting, the word behaving. I mean, I've been behaving. And can you tell me when I wasn't behaving? I mean, this is a very condescending type of word they used. And I disagree with this kind of analysis. Now,
Regina Yip said that you should be the loyal opposition. Do you know what
of course, I knew but in a country where there are two parties, like, well, for example, the U.S. Republican and the Democrats, and then you could possibly have a loyal opposition. But here, I won't use the word loyal opposition, but sometimes, of course, opposition's image is quite destructive in the Hong Kong sense. But rather than a destructive opposition, can we have something like a constructive opposition? That's what I'm thinking about.
Are you a constructive opposition or a destructive one? Because according to the government, you're a destructive one. According to Carrie Lam, you.
Well, I don't have the narratives here, but we are searching for a way. For myself, especially a professional, of course, I want to steer towards a constructive opposition.
But how would it be? Let me take you back to last October when Carrie Lam tried to deliver her policy speech, and Hong Kong was in the middle of the anti-extradition bill protest. When she went to Legco to deliver her speech, the opposition shouted her down several times until she had to leave and do it by video. Is that constructive opposition?
That is the style only. I mean, you look at the content of the debate, not just what we acted in the chamber. I mean, the contents of the debate are relevant because everyone, in fact, last time, remember, every party demanded $10,000, dish out to all the citizens of Hong Kong. And of course, I'm a very prudent financier, and I eventually support that proposal as well, to dish out $10,000. And that is good for the stimulation of the general economy.
Okay, so supposing, hypothetically, if the opposition decides to stay, I think they're leaning towards that.
Well, I may, yes, maybe, yes.
That they decide to stay. They're awaiting the results of polling, but they're leaning towards staying. Even though Lam Chok Ting was arrested, I heard him say that his arrest and the changed narrative in Yuen Long had nothing to do with, is a separate matter from whether the opposition remains in Legco. If you do remain in Legco, Carrie Lam has said through various interviews that she wants to spend the rest of her term looking at livelihood issues. She doesn't want to discuss politics, and she will use this extended term to do that. Now, will you then go along with her agenda?
Well, livelihood is just one issue. How about police power? How are we going to monitor the police?
But she said she's not going to discuss those
Why?
things.
This is also a livelihood issue, because if the police keep on abusing their power, they're not under control, then our livelihood will be affected. And how about, press freedom? If you don't have press freedom, how can business in Hong Kong conduct business, relying on the free flow of information?
But even if you bring those issues up, like police power or whatever, if you bring those issues up in Legco, there's no way with your numbers that you can push anything through.
You need to bring it up. If you bring it up outside Legco, who will listen to you? I mean, if you bring in Legco, there will be some people listening. If you bring outside the Legco, who will be listening?
Why do you say that? Why do you say that if you say something in Legco, people listen, but you say outside, people don't listen?
Well, we have live broadcasters for a matter of resources. We still got live broadcasted, and all the speeches and all the question time, taking place in Legco. But we are there to ask questions where there's scrutinize the policy. We still will do that.
But even after you've scrutinized it, you cannot change it.
Well, who knows? There may be a slim chance we can change that. If you don't try, you will not know.
Now, our last question, running out of time. 12 young activists were arrested by the mainland authorities when they were in a speedboat trying to, according to the mainland, trying to reach Taiwan.
Yeah.
They're still on the mainland.
Yes.
Do you think that they should be sent back to Hong Kong where they face trial here?
Well, I don't know what their charges is. If they're just illegal immigrants, I think after having gone through the proper administrative procedures in the mainland, well, they should be sent back to Hong Kong, because if these people are people asked for by the Hong Kong police for various offences committed within Hong Kong, then I think the whole legislative procedure, the judicial procedures should be taking place within Hong Kong.
Does this surprise you that people actually fleeing Hong Kong? I mean, that never happened. People used to come to Hong Kong, but now people are fleeing Hong Kong.
Yes, I think it's very sad because of various events in the past, and of course because of the uncertainty of the scope of the national security law. People are just afraid that anything they said, not even they done, would be incriminating themselves. That is a very sad episode. I think the Hong Kong government and even the central government has a prime responsibility to clarify the scope and the application of this very draconian national security law.
All right, okay, I've got to end it right there. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Good evening.